Welcome to the start of a series on destruction. This is an idea I just came up with having played through Doom the Dark Ages, which happens to have quite incredible object destruction. It's used sparingly, and I'm sad to admit I almost didn't notice it on my first playthrough because stuff likes to blow up a bit too easily. Your guns seem to destroy everything within a generous radius, and the Doom guy's sheer mass seems to immediately and completely shatter objects as he nudges into them, and hurls barrels away at high velocity. But take the time to pick stuff apart and there's a lot to appreciate here. I don't want to fixate on the enemies too much because they're quite hard to test, what with how wibbly and movie they are, but the Mancubus is a lot of fun with how you can blast off both his arms and he's left just standing there trying to gnaw at your legs and whatnot. Kind of feels sorry for it. I was hoping it would waddle after me through the level as some kind of companion, but it seemed he had kind of accepted his fate. The meat of this video is this one statue right here, found on level 2 of the game. Check this out. I'll be returning to it later in the video. Curiously, what's broken stays broken for a considerable amount of time. In a game as optimised as Doom, I wasn't expecting this, but it really is impressive here. I came back to this area later on and it was still all broken, with rubble strewn across the floor. The destruction seen in id Tech 8 seems a lot more permanent than in most games. But even this has its limits, and even later on in the level I returned to this same bit again and the demon had presumably swept up all the rubble, and it was spotless and clean. So there is still room for improvement, but it's very good. I also found these two freestanding statues later on in the game. These are wonderfully lit by the lights below them and have considerable heft to them, taking several body shots to be felled. But I wouldn't recommend you get to these because firstly, they're at the end of a very long and very hard level, and secondly, they have a tendency for their parts to simply disappear once they hit the ground. Disappointing. It feels like as the game gets more abstract as it progresses, the game swaps out proper destruction for physics objects instead, like this helium-filled hell stick just here. Don't demons have such beautiful craftsmanship? And the forest level shows the shockwaves as you blow stuff up. This game dynamically models shockwaves, wind, rain. It's a remarkably robust and all-encompassing engine. It's just a shame they choose such washed out and murky looking colour palettes to mask it all behind. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate all this dynamic stuff, but would it have been so much to ask for there to be a bit more colour and light to some of these levels? It's a Doom game, yet it didn't sear my retinas on my HDR screen once. Oh yeah, and the game supports cloth physics too. This is old hat now, it's been done 1,000 times before, but the ones in Doom do look nice. They interact with shockwaves and wind, and they don't seem to clip through the environment at all. But let's be honest here, the meat of this video is this one statue here. The reason this one's special is because most of the other statues in this game are fused to the wall, or only have a destructible outer shell while its innards can't be removed, which limits how fun they are to shoot apart. But for Doom gameplay, these still serve their purpose well. A lot of supports throughout the levels are like this too. Watch me shoot this bit apart. It's really nice when physical chunks are spawned but don't immediately break off, so it almost looks like it's cracking open. It needs a few more shots to dislodge it from the wall. Not sure if this was intentional, but it feels quite nice. This wolf statue is a bit of fun as well. You'll find it dotted about all over the place, but because it's quite blobby in its nature, there aren't many limbs for you to shoot off for it to collapse in interesting ways, and it doesn't land on its head as much as I'd like it to. But when it does, bits of it will still shatter off. I saw its nose fall off at one point. Again, very convincing. Of course, all this harkens back to Red Faction Guerrilla, which is still the golden standard for destruction, in my opinion. In that game, the chunks that were created were so small that it was very difficult to tell if they were pre-calculated every time or different. The Dark Ages destruction still isn't quite as robust as this one is, but objects will still collapse under their own weight and shatter accordingly. Here's a nice example of it right here. So once I've had my wicked way with it, you'll notice a weird freezing effect on the ground where I shoot. And this is how the game does its decals. It's best demonstrated on the flying levels, where if I shoot up a clean, flat-looking surface like this one, it transforms into a worn, broken-looking one. Every surface in this game seems to have two layers, and as you shoot the first one, the second starts to appear through it, often being bumpier and more recessed in nature. A novel approach to destruction, but I don't think it's as successful as it could have been. At times it just looks like you're spray painting surfaces. But it's better than nothing, and you bet this effect is used extensively through your messy carnage sessions. With Destruction, I think more is less, and I get a lot more satisfaction from shooting apart a modest wooden stall than I do entire watchtowers as the Guardian Mech thing. Like I said earlier, you can run straight through things like this and it doesn't even jolt your vision. Not very satisfying, makes them feel like they weren't even clipped. And I fear some of these things are just the same breaks again and again and again. Not nearly as satisfying as this. Well, I don't think it is. But then your mech gets a gun, allowing you to destroy stuff at your leisure. And this reveals something horrifying. The moment you shoot something, it's replaced by a simpler looking version, likely to simplify the physics calculations and graphical burden for what's meant to be just a pretty looking collapsing effect on your screen. This swap to a low LOD model isn't normally noticeable amidst the dust clouds and collapsing, but when it's gently introduced like it is here, it is. And it's jarring. Especially when it acts all confused for a second before exploding dramatically for no apparent reason. Water also plays a part in this game, looking suitably ripply and stuff. The way this is done reminds me a lot of how it's done in Counter-Strike 2. In that game, it's flat but uses like 20 different layers to give the illusion of bubbles and ripples, and in my opinion it's one of the cleverest uses for shaders I've ever seen. Now the water in Doom also appears to have a foamy layer to it, which seems to flow around the sides of a river and to form as the water meets obstacles and resistance. This foam, like so many things in this game, appears to be parallax mapped, which gives it a slightly jagged pyramid-like look from an angle, but makes it appear more 3D than it actually is. Saying that, the surface of the water does appear to be properly 3D, as it overlaps the shores and objects in the water more when it's at high tide. I noticed an awkward cut-off here between areas. Valve, please fix. There also seems to be a distance cut-off to the water simulation, like a line that forgets splashes and ripples beyond it, which you can see here as I run away from it. Valve, please fix. I had to mention water because if I didn't, then somebody else would say that I've forgotten. And I do like water, but it's still not as cool as the destruction in this game, is it? So how has this game managed such luscious destruction? And the answer lies in Havok physics. This is the same thing that powered Half-Life 2's physics back in the day, and has received countless upgrades and new features ever since. Bizarrely, their blog post about Doom the Dark Ages doesn't seem to exist, but in their game feature page they do mention they helped power the physics, cloth simulations and the AI pathfinding, which might not be something you immediately associate with a physics engine. And in the Digital Foundry interview, the devs talked about how they offload all the physics calculations to the GPU, which is much better suited at handling lots of stuff in parallel, although from what I remember, physics does sometimes have to be done in a certain order, so lots of witchcraft is going on in this game. In the interview, they also touch upon how they reactivate certain chunks of debris if you want to interact with it again later on, which I think is a really big part of what makes the destruction in this game so special. You can run about a battlefield after everything's been half destroyed and proceed to finish the job, ripping and tearing until it is done. In future videos, I'd like to investigate more awesome examples of physics in games. But for now, you can check out my video on the water simulation in Hydrophobia. It's flawed, but it's an ambitious attempt at simulating water volume. It's definitely the best bit about the game, though that's not saying much. And of course my video on Red Faction Guerrilla, which is still, in my opinion, the champion of destruction videos.